Hi everyone, today we are going to deal with the different successional stages that take place that sequentially replace one another when succession takes place in a dry area, like you have the surface of a bare rock, okay, or you have the surface of the sand, okay. And the main difference between Xerorc and Xerosere is Xerorc simply means the succession which takes place in a dry area, and Xerosere means all the sequential stages, okay, from the pioneer stage to the climax stage, which arise during this succession process. This is known as Xerosere. Okay, here you can see in this image. You have first of all a bare rock, and this bare rock is first colonized by, at the outset it is colonized by the mosses and lichens, then you have grasses and ferns, then you have bushes and shrubs, and finally you have young trees, and these young trees are ultimately represented by the mature forest trees which form the mature community or climax community. Okay, and this community is not further replaced, reason being it has adapted to the environmental conditions of the area, and it is quite stable and exists as such for thousands of years. Okay, and here in these following slides, we will study in detail the different successional stages that occur during the succession in a dry area. Okay, first of all, let us get started with the crustose lichen stage. The crustose lichens, I presume that you have read about these lichens in the previous class, I mean in the 11th class. And so I won't go into the details of these lichens. I will directly tell you what they do. Crustose lichens, they are the pioneers and they colonize bare rocks, and they are introduced to the new area through spores. Okay, and no other organisms other than lichens are able to exist on the bare rock area. Okay, because the bare rocks, they have extreme temperature, they do not have enough moisture, and lichens are able to live in those conditions. Okay, and the examples are rhizocarpon, you have lacanora, you have rhinodina, and they secrete carbonic acid which results in the corrosion of rocks, and ultimately soil formation takes place. Okay, and this formation of soil, it invites another plant community, and when they invite another plant community, when the incoming plant community, they replace the previous one, that means the crustose lichens are replaced. Okay, they create conditions favorable for the another plant community. What is that another plant community? We will see in the next slide. Here you have the foliose lichen stage. That means the crustose lichens have created conditions favorable for the foliose lichens, and once foliose lichens start invading, they replace the crustose lichens. Okay, and they spread over and lie on a thin film of soil which is formed by death and decay of the crustose lichens. Once the crustose lichens have undergone death and they have decayed, they create conditions more favorable for the foliose lichens, and foliose lichens, they also secrete the acids which cause corrosion of rocks, and ultimately results in the formation of more soil. Okay, and the examples of foliose lichens are, you have Parmelia and you have Dermatocarpon. Okay, you have Parmelia and Dermatocarpon, and ultimately they also create conditions, they also alter the environment which is more stable for the next coming plant community. Here this is the next coming plant community. The buildup of more soil, particularly in the crevices of rocks by the foliose lichens, they create conditions more favorable for the mosses. Okay, and some xerophytic mosses like Polytrichum, Tortula, and Funaria, they invade this area. That means the foliose lichens have created more favorable conditions for the mosses compared to themselves, and when they are not able to exist in these conditions, these are easily replaced by the mosses. Okay, and the death and decay of the older parts of these mosses together with the more soil formation, they create the better conditions for invasion by herbs, grasses, and ferns. Okay, that means once the mosses have invaded this area, they too does not remain there for a long time period. They undergo death and decay, and this death and decay, it also adds to the soil. Okay, that means more soil formation takes place, and this formation of more soil, it creates better substratum for invasion by herbs, grasses, and ferns. That means the next coming plants are herbs, grasses, and ferns. Here you have the herb stage. The enough soil formed by mosses to support xerophytic herbs like xerophytic herbs and grasses like poa, phyllocene, festuca takes place. Okay, the mosses, they build more soil, and this creates favorable conditions for the xerophytic herbs and grasses like poa, phyllocene, and festuca to invade this area. Okay, that means the mosses are replaced by herbs and grasses, and these grasses, they are replaced by another group of plants like solidago, verbascum, and thymidia. And besides these two categories of plants, in the herb stage you have some ferns, okay, like aspilinium and adentum. They also appear during this stage. Okay, they also appear during the stage. And all these plants, they build up the decomposed organic plant material. Okay, their dead parts, their parts, their tegus, their leaves, they also add to the organic matter constituent of the soil, and this creates better substratum and it invites invasion by another plant community. That means the herbs themselves, they are not there for the longer time period in a state. They are replaced by another plant community. What is that plant community? You will see. You have the shrub stage. That means the herbs are replaced by shrubs because herbs have created conditions which are not favorable for themselves, but these conditions are favorable for the next coming plant community, which is the shrub stage. Okay, when the shrubs, they invade the area, they cause disappearance of the dominant herbaceous community which was previously there, and invasion of xerophytic shrubs like rus, physocorpus, and ziziphus takes place. Okay, when these plants, they invade the area because conditions are favorable for them, they invade the area like rus, physocorpus, and ziziphus. They invade this area and the herbs are they disappear altogether. Okay, that means the herbs disappear altogether when the shrubs invade this area. Okay, and these shrubs, they are able to tolerate bright sunlight and they also act as windbreaks. Okay, they are able to tolerate bright sunlight and they also act as windbreaks. Okay beta, इसका मतलब यह है कि these plants, they help in the conservation of soil. They firmly bind the soil. Okay, they prevent erosion of soil by strong winds. Okay, and the decomposition of their fallen parts like leaves, twigs, etc., they also add to the organic matter constituent of the soil. They form a layer of humus on the soil. Okay, they add to the organic matter constituent of the soil. Okay, and once you have enough organic matter constituent in the soil, the conditions are ultimately suitable for the climax stage, and that is the forest stage. Here you can see. It also means that the shrubs themselves, they are not able to remain indefinitely there. Okay, they are to be replaced by the forests because they have created conditions which are not suitable for themselves in a state. The forest trees are better able to live there. Okay, and in the forest stage you have enough soil cover which is enriched with the organic matter. Okay, and this favors the invasion of xerophytic trees. That means the xerophytic trees, they replace the shrubs. Okay, because shrubs have created conditions which are not favorable for themselves but are favorable for the xerophytic trees. And ultimately the xerophytic trees are replaced by the mesophytic trees like betula, quercus, and acer. If it takes place in the temperate areas, if the succession is taking place in the temperate areas, in the climax community you would have betula, quercus, and acer as the dominant trees. Okay, and if it takes place in the warmer areas, you will be having acacia and prosopis as the dominant plants. Okay, याद रखना बेटा, ultimately at the end of the succession, when you have a climax community, ultimately you have the mesophytic trees because the conditions are such that you have enough moisture in the soil. Okay, you have enough moisture in the soil, so at this stage only the mesophytic trees can survive. Okay, that is why here the xerophytic trees are replaced by the mesophytic trees. Mesophytic trees are those trees which live in intermediate moisture levels. Okay beta, okay. This is all for today, and in the next class we will discuss the Xerosere. Till then, God bless you and thank you all.